Ho, 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 ho. Welcome back to another Six Demon Bag Holiday Special. Merry Sixmas!
Ryan Moore, Holiday Joy.
Andrew.
Jeffab Marley.
And my name's Ryan, and I am still under this goddamn mistletoe. Hey gentlemen, and longtime listeners of the show, what would you call a Santa that's lost his britches? Well, I would call him Bear Noel or Old Saint Knickersless.
Fantastic.
Bah, humbug, no, that's too strong, 'cause it is my favorite holiday. But all this year's been a busy blur, don't think I have the...
How's everyone's holiday shaping up this old year?
Pretty low-key.
Seemingly around the same time every year, we sort of go into hibernation mode a little bit, and we choose a video game that we decide to get deeply into during those 4-day weekends. Do you think that's kind of a normal thing to happen to everybody? Sort of, weather gets colder, nights get darker.
I think there's so many factors, vacation, days off work, bank holidays, family gatherings, that all sort of force you to have some time away from your normal routine. But I am really just suffering this year without a PS4. I know it sounds ridiculous, but
PS4's in Santa's shop, and he's taking his sweet time.
Oh no, they got back and they said they tried a power supply, it didn't work. They ordered a new power supply, that didn't work. They said the only thing that might be wrong is something called a bridge on the motherboard, and they would need to micro solder it, and that would cost more than the value of the PS4.
So they declared it a total loss and gave you the difference.
They didn't charge us. They just said, "Yeah, we're not going to do this unless you really want us to, because it's going to cost more than a new PS4." But
and it might not have worked still. Santa failed.
It might not work, or they're prone to fail. But there's not really any way to get your hands on a PS4 or a PS5, so I will not be playing any video games this solstice.
Go out in the harbor in Long Beach and bust open one of those shipping containers.
Just swim out there.
Even with the backlog at the ports, there's still the semiconductor shortage. I know at work, we're still waiting on items that we ordered over the summer. That's probably not coming until February. I mean, I know Nintendo had to change their forecast from 30 million Switches down to something like 27 million because they can't get enough parts to manufacture enough Switches to meet demand. And Final Fantasy XIV, which is like the big MMO that's taken over World of Warcraft, they've had to stop accepting new customers because they've become so popular at the chip shortage, they can't manufacture more servers to accommodate the extra players. So
I blame crypto bros and NFTs.
Crypto bros are definitely part of it.
I'll have to really pray my Switch doesn't give out, and then if it does, my PS4 doesn't give out, and then if it does, my Genesis doesn't give out, and then if it does, my NES doesn't give out, thus proving that I have disposable income and am privileged and whatever.
You're allowed to have things.
Yeah, life can't just be about work and chores.
So deck those halls, trim those trees, raise up cups of Christmas cheer. I just need to catch my breath. Christmas by myself this year.
As leaves before the hurricane, a.k.a. Ryan's birthday.
When met with some groping, mount to the sky.
Tell the fine folks what you did for your birthday party.
Well, it was the big 4-0 this year, and for the big 3-0, we all went to medieval times, so I felt like the big adult birthdays really deserve a big child's birthday party. We had some gift cards for iFly, which is where you get in the big giant tube and fly on a cushion of air. So I booked it all up, got the gang all down. You go there, they give you like flight training as though you're going to do something serious rather than just floating in a tube. And it's really fun. They give you all the hand signals that you're going to need, which I immediately forgot what they all meant. Then they seal you up inside a big antechamber. I didn't realize it at first, but we were completely sealed off from the outside world. So Ed was able to join, which we didn't think he was going to, and he was there late, but they basically had to shut the whole thing down and unseal it, and I'm surprised we didn't get the bends, all of us, from the rapid decompression.
The antechamber separates you from the silo, I guess.
Yeah.
That has the giant fan that creates the updraft. I was sitting on this bench outside the silo, and there were these big holes in like the clear plexiglass that makes up the silo, and the fan kicked on, and there's like a difference in pressure between the silo and the antechamber, and it was like being next to a 4-story tall subwoofer. It was like
Yeah.
It
Vibrated your whole chest.
Yeah, my whole body started shaking, and it felt like taking off in an airplane where like they haven't quite closed the doors and windows, and it's
Felt like when you used to
oh,
climb the rope in gym class.
yeah. And you said it's just a cushion of air that you float on, but it's not like a raft on a pool. It's it's more like you're being blasted and you have to hold your body straight at sort of with great resistance against the wind in order to sort of catch all the air.
And it turns out it's very tiring, and after 3 rounds each, we were all pretty exhausted and quite sore the next morning, or at least I was.
Yeah, the rounds were just a minute long, but they felt long to me.
They did.
I was so in the moment of like focus on keeping my arms out and in the right position and my hands at the right angle, because this column of air is so strong that if you just turn your palm one way or another, you might start spinning around in a circle. For me, I was more in the moment than like, wow, this is great, I'm flying.
Yeah.
I was like, don't mess up, don't crash into the wall.
That was one of the first things that the check-in lady said to me was, try to get out of your head, and it's impossible when you're just starting.
I was very surprised by how, after the flight instructor gave me the signal to turn my hands, how quickly I just started rotating. And then when I turned it the other direction, how quickly I went in the other direction. It caught me off guard. I didn't think it would turn, just hand movements would cause me to change directions that quickly.
And they put you in like a jumpsuit, and they give you a balaclava and a helmet, and it's pretty awesome getup. But Ryan, you had said that you needed to do something like this because you haven't had a dream of flying in a while.
Yeah, right.
And have you had a dream of flying since?
No.
You lived your dreams.
Found a picture, frozen landscape, chilled this room for 24 days. Evergreen, sparkling snow, get this winter over with.
We never did a 60B full cast recording of A Christmas Carol. Still got to do that one of these years.
Still on the list.
Maybe we could do the Christmas Carol forecast soon, and then just time capsule it for like next year.
Ryan, I hope you're ready to edit an entire Christmas Carol.
Hell yeah. I was born ready. Who's playing Tiny Tim? Probably Drew with full velvet pipe mode, right?
I could try it a different way, like,
God blesses everyone.
Tim?
Who's that little boy in Drew's apartment?
Go back to Victorian England.
Is a live animal a good Christmas gift? Probably not if unless the person really explicitly wanted it. My Instagram, I follow lots of rabbit owners and rabbit people, and mostly Easter, but to some extent Christmas, they post a big lecture slide about how a rabbit is a 10-year commitment. It's not a cute gift. It's not an easy pet for kids, etc., etc., etc.
kind of like black cats around Halloween.
People giving those out as gifts a lot for Halloween
The
gifts.
pound gets a lot of surrendered black cats after Halloween.
Aw. They just use them for party decor.
I heard that they sort of ban adoptions around Halloween of black cats in particular. I'm going to take a controversial stance. I'm going to say the more live animals, the better. In fact, if you can give someone nothing but live animals under the Christmas tree, that's the making of a Hallmark movie or a modern Christmas Carol right there. At least a partridge in a pear tree.
Only if there's enough to create a basketball team with.
Are Gremlins evil? Ho or humbug?
I feel like they are born to seek mischief at the very least.
Yeah.
And I feel like Stripe was so far down the mischief end of the spectrum that, like, he wanted to get fed after midnight and turned into a monster.
He certainly did. I mean, they planned the whole thing. They cut Billy's alarm clock cord and everything.
But I don't know if it's evil to want to evolve or metamorphosize.
But it is kind of evil to attack people with chainsaws and pistols.
Sure, once they get into their reptilian form.
I would say they are probably pretty evil. They also have no compunctions about murdering each other. Well, that one guy's just trying to do a delightful puppet show, and he gets bonked on the head with a big hammer.
So maybe they're amoral or sociopathic.
Perhaps. But they tend to have an outsized amount of glee at their murderous shenanigans as well.
Some animals do also. There's footage of orcas killing like a baby seal pup and then tossing it in the air and batting it with their tail for fun. Scientists determine they're definitely doing it for amusement.
Just by watching them.
They know.
Oh,
they
look
know.
at him.
They know.
Look at that smile. My wife and I went on a orca trip. At a certain point, the killer whales started a hunt, and they started hunting a seal. And this seal came up to our boat and looked in and was like, "Oh my God, they're going to kill me." And we were like, "Yeah, they're gonna kill you." And then the seal went under, and then boosh, the killer whales got it, threw it out of the water.
Killer whales are truly the gremlins of the sea.
So that was really crazy to see a seal get hunted by killer whales and have the seal come up and look at us and be like, "I'm a mammal, let me in." And I was like, "Ooh, I feel bad."
The killer whales are also mammals, aren't they?
Yes.
Facts about orcas. An orca is a marine mammal.
Yeah.
They're often confused for being a whale because of their name killer whale. But did you know that orcas are actually dolphins? In fact, they're the largest member of the dolphin family.
With the largest member in the dolphin family. Heyo.
Can you force a new tradition, or must it be made by accident? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can force a new tradition.
Agreed.
Because, let's face it, if you have a family tradition that's passed down from generation to generation, it may have gotten started on accident, but it was new to you at some point, and it was forced on you if you were born after it.
Yes, I suppose that's a good point.
There's something like at Philly Flyers games where people will throw an octopus onto the ice rink, and I don't know who started it, but now it's like just epidemic, and people still do it, and so security like has to search people for octopuses.
Oh my goodness.
And people smuggle octopuses into the rink so they can throw them onto the ice.
That does sound like
And it's
something
like-
that happened by accident.
Yes, maybe an octopus just leapt onto the
Someone
hockey
had
rink.
an octopus lunch and they got furious.
Or probably even religion, crusades, missionaries.
This year we're going to celebrate the birth of Christ, who may or may not have existed in history, on the 25th of December. Wow, yeah, you're right, Drew. That one really caught on. They forced that one down our throats hard. I kind of went into this of the opinion that you couldn't force a tradition, but you've changed my mind.
RSVP, no thanks, no party lights, it's Christmas Eve, gotta relax, turn down all the
Did I ever tell you guys about the time I was Santa Claus?
No.
No.
How did that, seriously, how did this not appear on the very first episode?
My wife and I used to volunteer at this organization called Reading to Kids. And the second Saturday of every month, we'd get together at an elementary school in downtown Los Angeles or East Los Angeles, and we would read to kids.
So it's not just a clever name.
They would, for the December reading clubs, they would have a Santa suit. And so, I'm a bit of a ham. I love to put on costumes. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. And this Santa suit was awesome. Like thick velvet, fur trim, big black belt, huge boots, fat suit underneath, huge beard. Like, man, dressing up like Santa, it kind of just brings out the Santa in you. And so I would go from classroom to classroom and just kind of go in, and I was just supposed to like wave and be like ho ho ho. But I just got carried away, and I was like, whoa, ho, ho, ho. What do you want for Christmas? And like, Santa, I want an Xbox. You get an Xbox, and you get an Xbox. Everybody, and the kids were like, yay. And they're like, please stop promising Xboxes to these poor inner city kids. And I was like, oh, I'm Santa, bitch. I loved it. Just mad with Santa power, because you have to project when you're Santa. There ain't no half stepping. There ain't no quiet Santa. So I did it the next year, and same thing. You get a PlayStation. Whoa, ho, ho, everyone's getting PlayStations. Totally love it. The next year comes around, and they're like, "Oh, we didn't get that like professional Santa suit this year." I was like, okay, well, what do you got? And they brought out one of those cheap ass little Spirit Halloween
vinyl suit with a half mask.
It was a costume in a bag, and it was like this, for all intents and purposes, it was like a sexy Santa costume because it was this chintzy, thin, pseudo velvet material, no fat suit, and like a tiny little scabrous threadbare beard. And I was like, oh no, because like I have no hair and I was clean shaven, and this beard was not doing anything in the Santa department. So I had to like use all of the improvised costume practice I've built up in my life. So like I had a sweatshirt, and so like I took off my sweatshirt, I tied it around my midsection, I stuffed it with clothes to like make a fake belly, and then I was grabbing like cotton balls from the arts and crafts kits and white pipe cleaners to try to make.
He must have been horrifying.
I was not hanging out.
Trash Santa.
I was not hanging out in every classroom. But also this outfit was like really tight and sexy, and it was really looked like a fetish thing. Like, oh boy. So that was the year I was sexy Santa.
They call me backdoor Santa. I make my runs about the break of day.
Answer me this, fools. Are you meant to eat a gingerbread house? Or are they only for decoration?
You're meant to eat it.
You are?
I feel that food should not be wasted. And if it's not to be meant to be eaten, it should not be edible.
I think you're supposed to pull the frosting off and eat that and leave a big pile of gross dried gingerbread.
I swear to you, this very day, we made a gingerbread house and ate it.
You made it and ate it all in the same day?
Yeah, the kid was not going to wait. It says, like, to ensure maximum freshness, make sure you don't wait more than 2 weeks to eat this. And I was like, no, this thing is not lasting the night.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Good God.
Yeah, especially with the cat around.
It's got perishable frosting on it.
I don't know how perishable it was. It's all just made out of sugar.
My aunt used to make these elaborate gingerbread houses. I don't know if they were elaborate. I don't really remember that well, but we certainly would pick off all the gumdrops and, on passing by and eat those off it. So it was certainly looking rattier by the time Christmas rolled around, but yeah, I don't think anyone ever ate the actual gingerbread.
Yeah, when we were making the gingerbread house, it smelled so good. Just all that gingerbread. But in reality, it didn't taste very good.
Crumb thick and lip licking gingerbread. Uh-huh.
Christmas right this time.
Eggnog Corner. 3 facts and a challenge. First, this is the first year that Starbucks is no longer selling eggnog lattes. That makes me very sad. 2, the term nog may be related to the Scottish term nugged ale, meaning ale warmed with a hot poker. And 3, the habit of getting wasted on eggnog was so common that in 1826 there was an infamous eggnog riot at West Point where the cadets got so buck wild that they smashed up all the furniture and one guy tried to shoot his commanding officer.
Oh,
So I just switched from nog to beer.
same.
So there's an old adage, liquor before beer, never fear, beer before liquor, never sicker. We need to come up with one right now for beer and nog. Nog before beer, festive cheer,
Best
beer before nog,
heads in a fog.
Oh, sick as a dog, I guess, is the
beer before nog, sick as a dog,
the easy one.
nog before beer, Christmas cheer.
Yep.
Oh damn, guess what I forgot? So on with the boots back out in the snow to the only all-night grocery.
So we all know the story of Toy Story, which is the famous Pixar movie that came out of the blue and was about toys coming to life. And then last year, I was desperately searching for new Christmas movies that I had never seen before. And they have a bunch of weird ones on Disney Plus, like one where Ed Asner is like a crusty old thief, and he recruits children to like steal back the money that he hid in a reindeer before going to prison. And they have another one, it's called like The Christmas Star or something, and in the very beginning of the movie, the kid's dad gets shot to death in a bank shooting. It's like, it's really fucked up, but...
Wait, was it like a plastic reindeer or like the
It was a,
innards
it
of
was a plastic reindeer.
Okay.
It was Jason Bourne style, where he surgically implanted
In
a
a live
laser
reindeer.
pointer in a live reindeer.
And I don't remember if this was on Disney Plus or where I found it, but I found a Jim Henson puppet movie that I'd never heard of before, and it was made in the 80s called A Christmas Toy, and it was about these toys that come to life when nobody's looking, and like a new toy, like a new fancy space raider toy comes in, and the original toy, which it's been so long now, it's been a whole year, so I don't remember all the details, but there was like the one favorite toy that was really jealous of the brand new space toy. Anyway, it had like so many similarities to Toy Story. I was kind of shocked.
Isn't that like the oldest story in the book, like the Velveteen Rabbit?
I don't know. I forget how the Velveteen Rabbit really goes too.
It's super. I actually never read or heard that story until like 2 years ago, and it's super ridiculously sad. But
Yeah.
Is that the one where a kid gets sick and they end up having to burn all the toys?
Yes, they burn all his possessions because he got the scarlet fever, but the Velveteen Rabbit becomes a real rabbit because he was loved.
It's a metaphor
Something.
for burning to death. Specifically, the plot and setting of Toy Story and this Jim Henson's A Christmas Toy were wildly similar, but the Christmas toy vanished into oblivion and Toy Story became an immortal classic. I think that happens a lot. It's never the first one out of the gate that really makes an impact. It's always the one that comes along and just slightly tweaks the formula and makes it somehow more accessible.
Like Beta versus VHS.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you guys ready for Buckwyld Yuletide Part 4?
Yeah, let's get Buckwyld.
So Ryan M.
I'm going to guess Bloody Thomas, which I guess is the extreme diarrhea one gets after an eggnog bender.
Only if you do beer before eggnog.
In Bavaria, so this is the tradition of Bloody Thomas. In Bavaria, fattened pigs were always sacrificed leading up to the winter solstice. And this tradition continues into the Christian era for the feast of St. Thomas Day. The local custom is to steal your neighbor's Christmas pig by stealth or cleverness. No force is allowed. So everyone's out there trying to steal each other's Christmas pigs. It's called Blood Month because it is the month. November is usually the month where all the hogs are slaughtered. When the farmers are finished with all their butchering, they're covered head to toe in gore, and so they will pretend to be a demon named Bloody Thomas, who will run home and terrorize their children with a giant hammer. All right, Drew.
Well, I was going to say wassailing. It sounds to me like an excuse, like, why weren't you home for Christmas, Instead of telling the truth that I was with my mistress, I would say I was sailing.
Oh, I thought you meant like waffling. I like that, wassailing. There's two kinds of wassailing. There's when you go from house to house drinking wassail, which is like spiked cider, but the more interesting version is called apple wassailing. And on Twelfth Night, men would visit the apple orchards and they would sing to the trees, hang slices of bread on the branches. They'd pour cider on the roots and fire shotguns to scare off witches and spirits. And there were even like traditional rhymes that they would sing. And now I'm going to put RG on the spot because Ed's not here. So you've got the second best British accent. So here's a traditional apple wassail.
Here's to thee, old apple tree, whence thou mayest bud, and whence thou mayest blow, and whence thou mayest bear apples enow. Hats full, caps full, bushel, sacks full, and my pockets full too. Huzzah!
Very nice. Here's a short and sweet one.
Apple tree, bear good fruit, or down with your top and up with your root.
I like that one. That one's got a little threat to it.
Mm-hmm. It's a little sexual, as all wassailing is meant to be. I did recently read that wassailing was one of the reasons why they decided to tone down Christmas and make it more about families. Because everyone was getting broken into, and everyone was getting pregnant out of wedlock.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Christmas time, the Buckwyld Yuletide of old was you'd have roving gangs of young men smashing up shops and busting and doing home invasions and just drinking everything you had.
Down with your top and up with your root. I mean, that's pretty explicit.
So we've got Ours Gang, Apple Tree Man, and that other thing.
Well, Apple Tree Man is obviously the result of wassailing and pouring your cider upon the roots of the apple tree, and out pops an Apple Tree Man and demands child support. Back
when the apple harvest and sort of the welfare and the livelihood of the English was based on their apple crops, which is why they would go apple wassailing. The Apple Tree Man is the name given to the spirit of the oldest apple tree in the orchard. And they thought that like the fertility of the whole orchard resided with the oldest tree.
They may have been right. For all we know about, what's the beneficial fungus that lives in the roots of trees and helps them grow and stuff?
The mycelium?
Yeah.
First of all, I just think that's a lovely tradition. The idea that you venerate the oldest tree. But in voodoo, the first people buried in a cemetery, the first man buried in a cemetery becomes the king of that cemetery. And the first woman becomes the queen of the cemetery. And like they have like a special position of respect and can act as intermediaries with the spirit world. And it's cool to me. It seems like a cool parallel to the way they do it in voodoo.
So Ours Gang was the original version of the Little Rascals before our gang came along and just tweaked the formula slightly and became the one we all know and love.
So the Ours Gang is the Year Walker, and in Sweden, in Sweden they believe that the veil is so thin on New Year's Eve that you can perform this Ours Gang, this silent ritual journey into the forest and around graveyards to perceive the future. And so it's something people would do, and there's all these legends about going out into the woods or walking counterclockwise around cemeteries on New Year's Eve to see what was going to happen the following year. But you have to beware because you could be waylaid by brook horses, tree nymphs, and farting mice. There's this one legend of like this guy, and he's walking through the woods at night, and he's trying to get his prophetic vision, and all these like wood nymphs and stuff are coming out and trying to like scare him and like make him look, make him flinch, make him talk, and you're not allowed to, do any of that stuff. And then at one point in the legend, like these mice come out and start farting, and like it breaks his concentration, and then
That would.
yeah, it's a whole thing. So the only thing left on the list is perhaps the best thing to end it on is the Zexaleuten and the Berg. This is technically a spring holiday, but it's a spring holiday in Zurich, so it's all about winter.
Buckwyld Spring.
Zexaleuten is a spring holiday in Zurich where they ritualistically kill the Berg. And the Berg used to be this masked symbol of winter and death that would run around during like the winter carnivals, frightening children and making mischief, kind of like their version of a Krampus. But what they do now, and they do this to this day, is they make a giant snowman and they dress him up like the Berg, and they pack his head with explosives, and they put him on a pyre. And the time between the lighting of the pyre and the explosion of the Berg's head indicates if summer will come fast or be late, or if it'll be a warm summer or a cold summer.
A much better version of Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. Zexaleuten is turnt and Buckwyld.
Methods to think up the perfect gift. Be a better gift giver.
Live animal. Easy.
I have a really hard time giving gifts. Sometimes the perfect gift presents itself to me for the person, but sometimes that doesn't. Most of the time that doesn't happen. And you really gotta put some thought into it. But I wonder if there's any kind of hack to, any kind of life hack.
My life hack is to listen carefully, and if they express a sudden interest in something new that you weren't aware of, like, oh, I really like this book, or, darn, I've got this thing and it's not working, and I don't know, I need a new one. Like, you're like, oh, thank Christ in heaven. Okay, I'm putting a note in my phone to get you a book on blank or a new, something that solves a problem.
I feel like the danger there is that it can be a passing fancy.
It's true, but I think there's too much pressure on getting perfect gifts, because when you, at least for myself, I graciously receive all the gifts I get. Most of them, it seems like not a lot of thought went into them, and I don't want them, and I don't care. And if I can't re-gift them or donate them, they just collect dust for years, and then I toss them out.
I have a VHS copy of one of our Christmases when I was like 8 years old, and got some pajamas or a sweater or something. But I very distinctly remember in my child's brain being like, oh shit, like I have to sound like I'm grateful. So like I really turned on the ham factor.
Oh, thank you, Mommy and Daddy. Thank you.
They certainly saw through my deception right away, but I tried. I really gave it my best.
AVP Santa versus Freddy.
So we have to assume that Santa sleeps.
Do we?
Well, otherwise Freddy couldn't get him.
They both have a penchant for red and green. They both have claws.
Yeah.
They both watch when people are sleeping or when they're awake.
So do you think that Freddy would just sort of be like... Because, Santa has all these helpers, like La Père Nude Tard.
La Père Foutard, how dare you.
Santa Claus without his britches is followed by La Père Nude Tard. But anyway, they're all like horrible monsters, and they all devastate children, so wouldn't Freddy just be another of Santa's helpers?
It seems like he would lay the smack down and turn him into one of his enforcers, yes. Merry Quizmas. Just a few simple questions about Christmas. When are the 12 days of Christmas?
12 days before Christmas.
I knew this once upon a time. Does it like start after Christmas Day or something?
The 12 days of Christmas are from December 25th to January 6th. What is the 12th night called?
Sir Kringle?
Also known as Epiphany. If you are in Austria on Epiphany and you see 20 plus C plus M plus B plus 21 written above someone's door in chalk, what does that mean?
Hitler.
Don't kill the 20th born of this household?
It's something they do in Austria, like for good luck. They'll write the year, and so this will be 20, and then CMB is Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, the three names of the three kings, and 21. If you're in Ireland, what is Women's Christmas?
The women are locked away whilst the men go wassailing.
This is actually also on Epiphany, but it's a day where the women get the day off from chores and men do all the cooking and the cleaning.
Good lord.
What is Candlemas?
Where you have candles at Mass?
It is also the official end of the Christmas season.
Oh, sad.
So when is Candlemas? When is the Christmas season officially over?
January 6th.
February 2nd. So there are 40 days of Christmas.
Hell's bells.
Yeah. Hell's jingle bells.
If you found yourself stranded at night in the snow, what would you do?
And you can't say die.
If you really couldn't get to anywhere safer, you could dig like an igloo or like a snow cave.
That's
And
what I was thinking. Like, could you make some sort of igloo? Would you still just freeze to death in there? You probably would.
If it was like windy and still snowing, you'd probably be better off in the igloo than outside of it.
Yeah, if you can create a pocket of air, you will gradually heat that air up with your body heat. But if you don't have some kind of ground cover to get you up off of the wet, cold ground, it will leach all the heat out of your body and you'll die.
Got it. You're probably not going to be comfortable no matter what, but perhaps you can survive.
No, you're not going to get a lot of sleep. Riddle Disaster, Christmas edition.
Ho ho ho.
Why does Santa go down the chimney on Christmas Eve?
Because Christmas Day would be too late?
Because it suits him. It suits him.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Why was the snowman rummaging in the bag of carrots?
He was being nosy.
He was picking his nose.
He was picking his nose.
Why didn't the rope get any presents?
it was afraid not.
It was naughty.
There you go, Drew. How many letters are there in the Christmas alphabet?
26.
25. There's Noel. What happened to the man who stole an advent calendar? He got 25 days. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Hannah.
Hannah who?
Hannah Partridge in a pear tree. Merry Christmas, everyone.
God bless us, everyone.
Tim, get out of Drew. Get Tim out of your apartment.
Merry Sixmas, Happy Holiday, Bah Humbug, Feliz Navipod, and a Happy New Cast.
Oh man, in the 2018 Christmas episode, I was talking about how excited I was for the not knowing what the future holds. I'd like to go back and smack that guy.
Yeah, me too.